It's Saturday.
Y'all gonna make me lose my mind.
Yo, me. Yeah, boy.
For those of you who are new here to the channel, of which there's quite a few of you this week, so thank you guys for all of the love and support this week. It's been awesome. It is Saturday, so that means it's the Saturday Chat and Chill, where we sit back, relax, and talk about a topic in the King of Fighters Allstar community for about 15 minutes. This week we're going to be talking about the Dead or Alive collaboration, but first, make sure you guys, if you haven't already done so, smash that like button and subscribe, because we do daily King of Fighters All-Star content here on the channel. And let's go ahead and get into this week's Saturday Chat and Chill. And what else would we be talking about this week other than the Dead or Alive 6 collaboration itself? Because man, oh man, I don't think any of us expected the amount of quality characters that we got with this collaboration, because honestly, this collab came at a really awkward time for everybody. It is in the middle of a time where we are also inundated with limited banners, such as your SS banners and your BS banners and the like, that really I think that the hype had started to kind of die down for these collaborations. At least the expectations had been tempered a little bit when it came to these things, because I think that most people pretty much assumed that with the lament of the limited banner, collaborations in and of themselves had pretty much lost a lot of their luster, at least from what we could gather from what we saw with the 7 Deadly Sins collab. And Netmarble must have expected that, because they definitely made some changes with this collaboration versus all of the ones that we have had in the past. And of course the biggest change was making a couple of these characters SS variants. Now, this is the bigger topic at large right now with a lot of people, because this is going to be the one that is going to have ramifications going forward, and I just wanted to touch on this a little bit here and give my full thoughts. Now, while the implementation this time around wasn't necessarily the worst, depending on the RNG of the player you're talking to, because a lot of people out there are very unhappy with the way that some of this stuff was handled, and I do not blame them. The Marie Rose event in general, in my opinion, kind of sucks. It would have been better if they would have given us more time with some of these different tasks that were in there and allowed people that were going to be beginners, free-to-plays, whatever you want to call people who are not going to be whales or veterans, a little bit more time and a little bit more of an ability to be able to get this character, because once you get to a certain point, that board ends up becoming very tough to roll on in general, because they definitely lock you out of being able to get those coins as easily as you are in the first few days. Once you get those initial things done, like enhancing your hammers or leveling up your fighters or so on and so forth, you end up left with pretty much a barren wasteland of tasks that is very slow, very monotonous, and unless your RNG rolls are extremely lucky, you're going to find it very hard to unlock these memories for this character, which is really unfortunate, because this character is really good, and I do think that that has caused a lot of people to either, one, overlook her and kind of look past her. It's especially some of these other characters on these banners, which is easy to do when they're that good, much less the other free character that we got with this collaboration, who is just absurd. But at the same time, I couldn't blame people, because I get the feeling most people just don't have her awakened at all, much less at high awakening levels. I got pretty fortunate with mine. I ended up getting, as you guys saw in a montage of clips that I posted last week or early this week, I ended up getting her on like my second or third roll on that board entirely, and then I just reset every single time I got a memory, because I wanted to get as many memories for her as possible. I know some people kind of called me out for that and thought that that was a little bit of a strange situation, especially since there's so many quality items on that board, and that's the best thing I can honestly say about the entire event. That board is stacked with items that you're going to be just awesome, especially in my opinion the skip tickets for Chapter of Fight, but that's probably just my bias. I'm just happy to have about 150 of those things laying around now, but I do see where people are coming from with this, and it's one of those situations where I can definitely sympathize. So I myself am really hoping that I can at least get her to Awakening level 4. Fingers crossed. I need one more memory, but we will see. It's been pretty slow moving ever since I got that last one, so it is what it is with that. I do think that it's one of those events where they could definitely bring it back and improve it, and people would be very happy to have it. I'm just glad to see that 2 very top quality SS characters were introduced for free, even though it does require quite a bit of grinding and a little bit of RNG. Even with all of that being said, they could have easily just put some of the lesser desirable characters on there and made it to where it wasn't anything too special for the amount of effort and heartache that people were going to go through to get them. Fortunately, though, that didn't happen, and both of the free characters this time around were really, really good. But that all being said, let's go ahead and talk about SS Honoka, who is the other free character, and of course we have to talk about her Carnival as a result. So with the Carnival, memory carnivals in general we've had in the past, this isn't anything new. However, I do think that a lot of people were pretty upset about this just based on the fact that it can be pretty tough for new players especially, and that's really where I have a problem with it. New players are going to have a very tough time getting this character to high awakening levels, much less get her awakened at all. Say, for instance, you're a Dead or Alive fan, you're downloading the game for the first time, you don't have a stockpile of tokens or tickets or whatever the case may be, however you want to look at it to get these memories. Then, of course, that means that you're either going to have to A, grind non-stop for rubies so that you can pull as much as humanly possible on these banners to get as many of those memories as possible, or you're going to have to spend a bunch of money, and unfortunately that just isn't necessarily feasible. So I do think that while this memory carnival is definitely accessible and nice for a lot of people, it also shuts out several people, especially around a collaboration where you know you're bringing in a lot of new players, and that's actually one of the genuine hopes behind a collaboration, is that you are going to bring in a lot of new players. I think that it's kind of a short-sighted decision, especially with Honoka being as good as she is. I don't know if you guys have noticed this yet or not, or if you've been paying attention to the channel, but that character right now, in my opinion, is definitely easily the best free-to-play character that they've ever released, and the best defense type in the game right now, bar none. I mean, I really don't see another character on the board right now, so to speak, that is going to be able to rival her in that capacity. And honestly, after Rachel, I think everybody pretty much assumed that was going to be the top of the mountain for these free characters, but then they ended up dropping this one on us, and any character that can almost rival Kyo's damage output already is going to be absurdly broken and really good. But on top of that, when you couple her with the fact that she is also a defense type, meaning she is less squishy, meaning she can take a lot of hits in things such as Guild Raid, that really opens the door to a character that is going to be something you're probably going to want to build, not just up to high awakening levels, but also a character that is going to be one that's going to stick around and be relevant for quite a long time. So I highly recommend you guys try your best to build her up. However, it does also bear mentioning that this also lends a little bit more value to pulling on these banners, even though the value was inherent with them being as good as they are with the characters on those banners. But still, it does add quite a bit of value to your pulls, so even if you are getting shafted just a little bit, you will end up at least getting something out of it. So there is something to be said about that. I don't think either of these events are all bad. I don't think they're all good. I think, as always with life, they fall somewhere in the middle. So it's one of those things where if they want to continue this trend going forward, I really hope that they end up not only just making sure that the SS characters that are going to be the free units, if they're going to continue the SS model for collaborations, that they put on these free events, that they make those be some of the better ones on the collaboration in general, because the last thing people want is to have to worry about having to pull the best characters multiple times on these collaborations. We already have enough limited banners in between collaboration dates to keep us busy and to take all of our rubies, so that would be a disaster. But then we also just hope that they do make some improvements going forward if they keep the same events going, which they've kind of switched up the events from collaboration to collaboration at this point, so I wouldn't expect that, but you never know. So that's pretty much going to be my thoughts on those events. Now, of course, if we're going to be talking about the implementation of SS characters on these collaborations, we can't forget about the fact that they did add in a way for us to craft up to 2 generic SS memories. Now, this is a really cool system, but it's one that I have brought up in the past in Dear Netmarble videos, where they need to give us some sort of way to use some of the other limited banner memories that we have gotten. Maybe we have extra copies for a character that we already have maxed out. Maybe we have copies of memories that we don't necessarily want or aren't going to use. And as it sits right now, we have nothing to do with those. They just kind of sit and clog up our memory inbox. So honestly, it would be really cool if they would release a fully functional permanent version of this for us, because if they're going to continue the model of limited banners, they need to do that, especially for people who are going to be buying in on those banners, because at a certain point, if they ever get around to rerunning a lot of these things, which you know that they're going to, it's going to get to a point where there's very little value proposition there for people who have already pulled. Say for instance, you might have maxed out one character on that banner and not the other, and you need a couple of memories for that other character. Well, really the value proposition at that point, if they ever rerun it, isn't really worth it, because if you end up pulling a Fess, chances are if you don't get an off banner, you might end up getting the other character that you already have maxed out, at which point you'll get a memory, but you won't be able to use it for anything. So hopefully they get around to that, but that is something that is worth mentioning. I think that that functionality is really, really cool, and I'm glad that they did it for this collaboration, but at the same time, it is one that they just need to make a permanent thing, and they need to extend it to where we can use it for all of our limited banner memories, because that would be something that I think everyone would be happy with. But other than that, let's talk about some of these other events, and let's talk about the Beach of Paradise event in particular, because this event was incredibly good. I love this event. This is one of the best events they've ever done for collaboration, in my opinion, and I think that this needs to be something that they try to replicate for each coming collaboration going forward, because I do not see anybody out there complaining about it. I do not think that anybody would have a problem with it. Of course, you can't please everybody, so I'm sure there's somebody out there that thinks it sucks, but they're wrong. Beach Paradise event is quality. The amount of free items and free rubies that you get on that thing is probably making that thing the most valuable PvE mode they have ever done, to be honest with you guys. You get Fess memories, you get hammers, you get rubies, you get all these different items that everybody can use, and honestly, I think that they need to make that the model going forward for these collaborations. They don't even need to really change much with it. They just need to give us this type of thing going forward, and I think everybody would be better for it. And then from there, we also had some miscellaneous things like the Kasumi X Kasumi event and so on and so forth. And really, those are just kind of filler things. Those aren't anything that is really worth getting too in-depth with, but overall those things were nice. I mean, you do get that free card that you can craft in the craft menu that is awesome, and then there's all those other items that you can get from those events. So those types of things are always welcome just for free items, but honestly they're more homework than they are fun, so that's pretty much what you get with some of that stuff. But overall, I think that the events with this one this time around were really good. I think this collaboration, you could tell they put a lot of thought and effort into. It took them a lot of time, and I'm very happy with it. Now, the last couple of things I want to touch on are, of course, going to be the things that were not necessarily related to the collaboration, and that is going to be Absolute War, Fame, and all that good stuff. Now, Absolute War, I've already mentioned this, and I'm going to make a video on Absolute War talking about it in depth, but I love Absolute War, and I think a lot of people that were jaded with PvAI are also finding it really enjoyable. Now, a lot of people have levied the argument that they do not like the fact that it requires you to have a lot of fighters built up. Me personally, I love that aspect of it because it's rewarding to the people that have been playing the game the longest, but at the same time now gives those players the ability and the necessity to start using a lot of characters they wouldn't normally use. And it also requires us to start thinking in terms of, okay, well, I got this character, I wouldn't normally build them up, but they're going to be pretty good in PvAI, and I could always use another PvAI character, so I'm going to build this character. They also gave us the ability to buy into extra fights each day, and that only costs 10 rubies. I know I've been spending quite a few of my rubies on Absolute War because I want to build up my fame, because the fame system itself is really, really good and very beneficial to your account, and I highly recommend at least investing maybe 20, 30 of your rubies into it a day or so, just to get the extra fights in, because fame is going to make a big difference, especially if you're building on attack and penetration. That is going to yield you a lot of results going forward. But overall, it's going to be slow rolling. It's going to be something that's going to take quite a bit of time, quite a bit of rubies, quite a bit of effort in order to max out. But it is also going to make other characters better and more viable in the long term as you build up your fame. So in my opinion, Absolute War is a win. I love that mode. I think it's definitely an upgrade over Infinite Battle, and it's a mode that I find myself playing and coming back to each and every single day and not really getting bored with it. It is new, but at the same time, I do find it to be enjoyable, and I definitely enjoy it more than I've enjoyed things such as League or Infinite Battle in the past, so there is something to be said about that. On top of that, we had some other miscellaneous things, like we can now level up again. They extended the level cap, so that's been nice. It's rewarding whenever you level up and you do those things, so that is something that is nice to see as well and was necessary. So overall, you guys, there wasn't really a whole lot in this entire update that left a bad taste in my mouth. I think that there's a few things that were definitely downers, the SS thing being the biggest thing. They definitely have changed gears in a big way there, and I hope going forward that this doesn't become a major issue, even though I'm sure it probably will. However, at the end of the day, everything is really good here, and I'm pretty happy with this collaboration in general. You guys can let me know your comments in the comment section down below. I'm going to be doing spotlights on most of these characters this week, so any of the banner characters that I didn't get into in this video, don't worry, I'm going to be spending a lot of time talking about them next week. But I just wanted to kind of get my thoughts out there on the collaboration as a whole. So you guys let me know your thoughts on the collab, what you liked, what you didn't like, and we can talk about it in the comments section. Until then, like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you Monday. Peace.
Continue.